The big question most analysts are trying to figure out at this point as we head towards the college football season that is scheduled to begin in a month and a half is whether or not we will even have a college football season. And of course, this has such a big impact on the entire sports world and the entire nation in general. I mean, you feel like how big of an impact college football has on colleges and how much of a revenue source it is and everything. It is very important. And in terms of going over my thoughts on this and what I think could happen and what I think will happen with the college football season in 2020. Will there be a spring season? Will there be a fall season? Will we see no fans in the stands? That is what we're answering here today. Of course, over the past few weeks, we've seen the experts think that college football is nearly impossible for the 2020 season, or for at least the fall in general. I mean, there are some experts that think there will be a spring season or something else will happen like that. I mean, especially over the past couple weeks as we've seen a supposed spike in the cases around the nation. I mean, it's just kind of tough to say once again. I mean, this has kind of led most sports analysts, I mean, especially the ones that you see, for example, like at ESPN, to think that, I mean, it's just not going to be able to happen. And of course, we saw Kirk Herbstreit back in March. I mean, he already predicted it way back then that there would probably be not a college football season, which, I mean, once again, nothing is confirmed yet. No one knows as to whether or not there's going to be a college football season. But I mean, it's just kind of crazy to think that Kirk Herbstreit could have predicted it all the way from back in March. And I mean, as ridiculous as it sounded back then, that we would be having this problem throughout the entire summer. I mean, most people expected this problem to be gone by the end of the summer, which is where we're at right now. We're still in summer, obviously. We're in mid-July. But at this point, I mean, we're starting to it's starting to be a close cut up to the college football season. And to see a supposed spike, I mean, it just kind of, it's just a really tough situation right now. And everything's so political and everything too. So I'm not going to really get into what I believe about everything going on with the virus. I don't think that's really what this video is meant for. But yeah, I'm just going to be going over the sport aspect, and this is going to be my unbiased opinion about what we can expect in this situation. There are several options, obviously. I mean, they've been discussed over and over and over again. I'm sure you guys have many of you guys have heard these options, but the option A, the most ideal one, honestly, this situation, I can guarantee you 100% though, that even if the season does start as scheduled and if it starts on time, there will be some sort of capacity limit. I can 100% guarantee you that. It's just a matter of how much. Like, I know Ohio State, I think they've talked about maybe doing a 25% capacity limit. We've heard many schools say like 50%. I think I've heard a couple of big time football teams say that. But then again, I mean, 10 to 25% I would say is probably the most ideal. It'd probably be the most likely to happen. I mean, even if you've got 25% of the fans in the stadium, even that helps a ton, especially for the colleges that really benefit a ton off of the football revenue, which once again, I mean, I just can't imagine there not even being a college football season. I feel like there has to be football at some point for this season, for the 2020 season, no matter whether it's in spring 2021 or whether it's later this winter. I definitely think we're going to have it no matter what. I mean, it's just unrealistic for me to think that we will completely cancel off the entire 2020 season. I mean, you're going to have several colleges having to fold after that. We're going to have to see many college football teams having to quit. We're going to see many teams having to lose their other sports teams, which is obviously something that we don't want. I mean, it's just a big mess, and I'll get more into that in a second. The option B, season start delayed to the first week of November. Only non-conference games, still stadium capacity limit, obviously. And honestly, I think this is kind of this is honestly a pretty realistic option, I think. I mean, obviously we saw the Big Ten and the Pac-12 recently. They've canceled all of their non-conference games. That kind of started with the Big Ten, and quite honestly, I'll get into more about that as well in a little bit. But I think that's going to start a big chain reaction, and I don't think we even see any non-conference games this fall. So technically, basically, your start is going to be pushed back likely to October in the first place. But I think, I mean, there is a chance that they do delay to the first week of November, and we do see the season last from November to December. Obviously, if they keep the non-conference games canceled, and if they do delay the season a month, I mean, it is possible. It is a possibility. But then again, I mean, the weird thing about this option is we could see a resurgence about all the COVID cases, who knows, in November. And it's possible that this winter we do see things flare up again. So you do have to consider that once you're thinking about this option. Option C, season delayed to spring 2021, and the season will run from February to April. And honestly, it'd make the most sense if they do end up delaying it to the spring, I'd assume. I mean, obviously, it's still likely that they'll keep all the non-conference games canceled. But, I mean, you could also think about possibly rescheduling those non-conference games. So like such as Ohio State and Oregon, that could be put back on. We could see several other games being put back on as well. So I mean, who knows? I mean, if that is the case, the season would run from February to April. But in the case that they do keep all the non-conference games canceled, of course, the season would run from March to April. So, I mean, then again, I mean, the bowl games will take place in May too. So, I mean, honestly, it'd be pretty much a 3 to 4 month deal there. And which, honestly, I mean, that option at this point, a few months back, I thought a spring season would be the most unlikely option. I think that they'd probably cancel the season before deciding to reschedule to 2021. But after thinking about it, I mean, honestly, it could not. I mean, it could work. There's a possibility that could work out pretty well for college football to be able to move it to the spring. And obviously, it's going to be way different. The weather's going to be very, very different from where it would be in the fall. But then again, I mean, as long as you can get that revenue coming in and as long as some teams can continue to function, I think that could be an option there. Option C definitely could be likely. And we've heard several experts as well talking about how, I mean, they think that a spring 2021 season is honestly possible, and I believe that. I think that it definitely is possible. And as crazy as it sounds, honestly, that might just be the most likely option that we have on this list here. Obviously, we of course have to consider option D, and I mean, there's no way. I mean, I don't know. It's just very tough for me to think that they would cancel the 2020 season altogether. I mean, if it was, for example, say a baseball season, obviously NCAA baseball, I think, is canceled at this point. It's probably done for the season. But the thing is, though, baseball is not a very big revenue source. You got football, on the other hand, NCAA football, college football in general. It is a very big revenue source for most colleges, and you'll see a lot of colleges possibly having to fold like their entire college because of that. I mean, it's just really tough to think about, but I mean, there is a chance. I mean, that's probably the safest option, is just cancel the season altogether. But then again, once again, I just think, I mean, as much as I don't want that to happen, there is still that possibility, and you do have to consider that. So overall, these 4 options I would say are the most likely ones to possibly happen. I mean, who knows? They'll probably just cancel off all of the non-conference games and just start the season in October. Maybe, I mean, because I do know there's a couple of conference games, like for example in the Big Ten. I think there's a couple of conference games in Week 1, like Northwestern and I think Michigan State. They're playing each other in Week 1. You also got Nebraska and Purdue. So I'd assume they'd probably move those games to October, and I think they would probably pretty much completely postpone or cancel off the September month and push back to October. That's also another option. They don't really delay anything else, but then again, I mean, it's just really tough to say right now. I mean, who knows if there's going to be a resurgence in the winter months. That's something they certainly got to worry about at this point, and that's why, I mean, option B especially might be a bit of a problem. Then again, I mean, option C, I hate to say it, or I honestly don't hate to say it, but I think that is a good option. I think, honestly, a spring 2021 season, it would be crazy, and it definitely would, I mean, it'd be tough to fit it in with everything, but I think, honestly, that is a likely option. I definitely think we could see, there is a possibility that we do see a spring college football season. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I think it's definitely possible. As far as my thoughts on the situation, though, I think for sure that there will be some sort of football for the 2020 season. I mean, once again, I just can't imagine them completely canceling it off. I mean, once again, it is an option, and there is a possibility that they do completely cancel off the season, but I just don't think it happens. I think there will be some sort of football, no matter whether it's a 2-month season or not. I definitely think there will be college football in some way. Another thing that I think is all non-conference games more than likely will be canceled, and obviously we've seen the SEC kind of be a little bit hesitant to cancel their non-conference games, but it's tough to say right now. I think definitely, I mean, as much as it's just a really crazy situation. Everything is so unpredictable, so don't mark my word on anything here. But I mean, as far as it goes with the conferences, I mean, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have already canceled their conference games, and you got to consider in Big Ten country, really, the COVID is not all that big of a problem. I mean, it's a big problem right now in the Southeast, and that's where the SEC is, and they haven't canceled anything yet. And, I mean, obviously, once again, it's just really tough to say right now. The Pac-12, obviously, I mean, they canceled them as well, and, I mean, it's just, once again, very unprecedented time. And, I mean, as much as I'd like to see the non-conference games, I do think we will see no non-conference games this football season, one way or another. Once again, though, if they do end up postponing the season to spring 2021, there is a chance. I mean, it's slight, but there is a chance that they do bring back all of the non-conference games. I mean, who knows? It's once again just a very tough time, very tough to predict, but there is a possibility of that there. However, as far as the fall goes, I definitely think we will not see any non-conference games, any non-conference games going into this fall if we do see a fall football season. How would having a spring season be possible? Obviously, we've got a lot of college sports that are also taking place in the spring, and it would be very tough to fit in. But I think in the end, I think college football could easily make it happen. I mean, you got several sports, once again, though, in the spring that college football could be running into, such as baseball. I mean, you got the NCAA basketball tournament going on then. Even if that's still going, I mean, it's just a really tough situation here. And, I mean, yeah, you'd be colliding with like 3 different big sports if football were to be in the spring. Once again, I mean, there's a chance of that happening. What I think is the most probable income, I mean, once again, or outcome, I think it's definitely possible. All 4 options are definitely possible in this situation that I went over earlier. I mean, there's a possibility that they completely restart the season in November. I mean, once again, that's still a possibility. We got to worry about the resurgence. But as crazy as it sounds, I honestly think the most probable option here is that we do see a spring 2021 football season. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I definitely think that's probably your most probable option at this point. I think fall, I mean, looking at how things have been kind of surging over the past couple of weeks as far as the numbers supposedly go, I mean, I just don't know. Things really at this point need to be on the down low. Like, things really need to be improving by this point if we're going to see a football season come September. And, I mean, quite honestly, as we see all the cases spike in mid-July, only a month and a half before the season is supposedly supposed to start, I mean, that does concern me a little bit. I mean, many people thought, like, including myself, that once we got to the summer, we really wouldn't have to worry about it as much. But quite honestly, I mean, it just really hasn't gone away, I guess. So, once again, it's just a very tough situation right now, and a lot of crazy things are going on. And, I mean, yeah, what I think is the most probable income, I gotta say, I'd probably have to say the spring 2021 football season. And, I mean, it sounds crazy, but I think, honestly, a fall 2020 season, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, we've got, there's just so many things to factor in here, and I just think it's too risky. You could make the situation way worse if you've got a football season in 2020. And I think, I mean, honestly, I mean, who knows? It's still very political, so I mean, I can't really say a whole lot. But in the end, I mean, it's just a really tough situation. But in the end, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd like to hear what you guys think of the college football season. Once again, there are a lot of experts at this point that are saying, like, I haven't heard one expert over the past couple of weeks say that it's still possible to have a fall 2020 season. And I mean, I just think, I mean, when you're in mid-July and you're still seeing this as a problem, I think that in general, like, the chances of this happening are pretty low. Once again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. But once again, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more.